Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is well, having a wonderful week. So, welcome back to our analysis here at Financial Hub. Pleased to see all of you tuning in. So, we'll go as usual we'll go through a few pairs here. We did the analysis on Monday. Monday we tried using a different platform. We'll sort of more or less move into it, but for now, on familiarity, let's stick with the Zoom and keep it short and simple. So, what have I been watching? I remember I gave an analysis on Monday talking about the trades I have running. Last week, I remember for those who are not in, I had a short on gold, which I was spiked out. Market went all the way to 1813, 1812 level, then quickly dropped. And that was during the time when Fed Powell was speaking with some talks about interest rates and all that. But apart from that, I have my $dollar short, which I still had from last week. More or less this week we've seen a rebound. Market has been sort of pulling back to around where I got in, but I'm still holding that one. I'm still firmly with it. And yeah, yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was yesterday. We saw dollar trying to rally to the upside, and then got a bit of consolidation. But we'll go to the charts and look. Let me just share my screen. So as usual, I'll do the analysis. Then when I'm done, I'll let Ken come in and share with you what he has. So just starting off, let me start with the Aussie dollar. Oh, before I go to Aussie dollar, let me start with dollar index so that we can get a brief overview of what I'm looking at. So if I go to the 1 day chart, we can see market came and got some resistance at the $94.5 mark. If you look at previous history, how it's been performing, it also acted as a very strong resistance level, which pushed markets to new lower lows. Okay, that was in 2020. So, and that was also sort of a time like this. This was last year September, and this year September we've seen October we've seen market come back to that same level. Okay, so we've gotten some resistance and some support. If I go to the 4-hour chart, now we can see clearly. So I'm looking at two levels. Okay, long term, actually I have this trend line that I'm watching. Okay, so there's this trend line. If I zoom it out quite well, there's this support down here. Okay, that bounce, this bounce, and sort of there's a potential bounce also at this level. But I'm also watching the $93.5 mark. Okay, and the $94.5 mark as my resistance, as my support. We've seen market dangling within that level. Okay, the other day we saw, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, we sort of had like this breakout of this resistance. I was looking for two things to happen: either a breakout of 93.5 to come and touch this, but we got instead a break to the upside. Okay, so I'm still watching to understand what really is happening over here. If we can get some support or bounce off this trend line, we can see maybe market rally. But if we get that break to the downside, then we'll be looking for dollar weakness and most of the other pairs to go to the upside. I'm talking about Euro USD, Aussie dollar, and GU and such pairs. But if you come up, maybe break the 94.5, we can see market maybe continuing to the upper side. So I'm watching those two levels, not yet really clear of what is happening. So on my pairs as well, I'm also watching. I'm quite flexible to see what will be the outcome, and I'll trade accordingly. So I don't want to stick with only one side. Now if I go share my Aussie dollar trade that I had, so what I'm looking at, if you go to the 1 day chart, I sort of had a flag formation, which I've been watching. I think I deleted it, but this is what indicated me to take a short last week. I believe it was on Thursday. So I took a short at this level, okay, this resistance level, the upper side of the flag formation after this rejection. Okay, so I was looking for that short, and as I was saying, this week you can see the past 3 days we've had this bullish momentum. Market has come back to test last week's highs. Okay, with the 4-hour chart, let me take this to the daily. On the 4-hour chart, this line has been respected in the form of a channel-like formation to the upside. You can see this high, low, high, low with respect to the resistance level. We can see market last week after I got my short position, we came back to retest 0.745, and if you zoom it out, you can see it was quite a solid resistance some weeks back. Okay, that was back in September. It acted as a resistance, and now it's acting as support for this period. But looking at this impulse and this correction, sort of, I'm not seeing such strong momentum to the upside, which is still helping me remain I'm still remaining short on this pair. If I go to the 1 hour chart, we've seen another market pattern form. okay, which is something I normally teach in my classes. It's normally paying to attention how is the market approaching a certain level. You can see this drop to the downside, so the 0.7450 acting as my support, and this 0.7550 acting as my resistance. Now look at this pattern that market is forming. Now what normally happens, because my stops are above this level, okay, around above this, some 20 pips above this level, what we can clearly see, sometimes market can come, you can see there's no much momentum, we can easily come and touch this and form a double form a double top formation, which can give us some solid sell back to the 0.7450 level yet again. So that's what I'm watching, that's why I'm still short, and that's what I'm paying attention to. On USD card, what I'm watching is I want to see if market can get some momentum, because you can see if I zoom it out, what you're basically seeing is that we've had a channel like formation to the downside, okay, so forming lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs. Over here you can see now market is sort of forming this lower high in the form of a flag formation. And if I zoom out, I've talked about this level, the 1.2425 level, this resistance level, okay, very good resistance level, which if market can come back to that level in the form of this flag formation and in line with this trend line, I can get a really good shot to push this market to move much lower, okay. So that's what I'm speculating on this one. However, if you get a strong break to the upside, then it's best to stick out of this market and wait to see what pattern is forming. But this can be a very good indication, because I'm not seeing that momentum, strong momentum to the upside. So I'm just paying attention to what the market is telling me. I'm not trading my biases, okay. So that's what I'm watching on this one. If I go lower, gold, you can see some market pattern which has been forming quite clean, you can see long term we've been having this sort of trend line, okay. So something I'm watching, okay, you can see this first bounce, second bounce. Now can there be a third bounce over here? It's something that was speculating. I was looking at this market on, let me take this much low, I was looking at this market on when I was analyzing over the weekend, okay. So I was changing a few levels and updating it. You can see the $18.25 mark, that range acted as a very strong resistance, and now I'm looking is, can market come back to that level in line with this third trend line bounce before we get any strong indication for whether market will move lower or much higher, okay. If I go to the 4-hour chart, you can clearly see there's sort of like a flag channel formation, okay. To the upper side you can see the higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. So I'm watching to see if market doesn't break this resistance to the downside, then I'll be watching to see if we can get, if market doesn't break this trend line, if we get a third bounce, we can see if market can push all the way to the $18.30 mark. If not, if market strongly breaks this level, then I'll be watching to see if market can fall back all the way to the $17.25 mark, which is about 600 pips away, both to the upside and both to the downside. So sort of in like the middle ranging level of this market that's ranging over here. So that's what I'm watching on gold. And with that said, that's mainly what I'm watching. I think I'll leave the floor to Ken to do the rest of the pairs, but those are the main things I'm paying attention to and how I'm approaching the markets this week. So I like to keep it short and simple. The much you do, the more you can confuse yourself. So that's it from me. I'll see you on Friday. Peace.
So hi guys, hope you're well. You're having a wonderful time trading markets. Markets have been quite noisy, quite volatile, so up down. Some markets have been trending though. So if you look at indices, for example, we've seen new all-time highs again this week. But if you look at other markets like currencies, not much has been happening, especially on the dollar pairs. If I look at gold, we had a move lower, and oil also, we tapped into $85 a barrel, but it looks now we're into a sell-off. So I'll share with you what I'm watching. Starting today, when the week started, I was long on some dollar pairs, but I've recently come to pivot, and at least now I'm flat, so I'm not long or short. I'm still waiting for clearer signals. I think there's a high chance the dollar could keep on rising a bit. Maybe we could see some noise at the current level we are trading, and when that's the case, I want to stay out of the market. Like, if I don't really know why I'm holding a certain position, then I don't see why I should be holding it. On pairs like euro yen, I was looking for a good entry, didn't find one. On markets like oil, I'm watching for potential entry. I think there's a high chance oil could start selling off a bit. So we've now tapped into $85 a barrel, psychological level, and today we're down 1% already, 1.1. I think there's a high chance you will see a huge sell-off, at least again back to $80 a barrel or something. But I'll share with you how I'm going to trade some of these moves and how I'm positioned to trade some of these moves. So let me just first share my screen. So let me first look at gold. So gold on the weekly chart, I think I shared what I expected to happen on gold on the weekly chart, and on the daily chart I also had something solid on Monday. So I talked about waiting for Monday's close to tell whether this market will go up or down. And see clearly what happened was on Monday we had a bullish close, and then that tempted me to go long yesterday, but I was killed. I came in too early. You can see it looks like we had a break, and now we've gotten a retest. So if we can remain above 1785, 1775, probably we will see 1840. I think I was looking at the correlation between gold and the US 10-year yields, and there's a high chance gold could rise to 1840, but it's a hard bet. It's a hard bet. It's not something easy for you to just execute and wait for profit. Like, it's not a straight bet. There are one-way bets, but this one is not one kind of a bet, that kind of a bet. So I'm still not in. I'm waiting for New York session to try and see how markets will react to some levels, which side momentum will come into. So I like timing my entries to come in at around 330. I think that increases my chance of being right, because if the markets maybe have been opening lower and trending lower, probably at 330 you could find some support and come back higher, or you could see a break and a continuation to the downside. In that case, I wouldn't execute a trade. So I first want to see how London will open, then I can position myself. But I think if you can remain above 1782, 1780 to the extreme levels, I think you could easily see 1840. But on the way to 1840, there are some levels you need to watch out to. I think 1825 is quite significant, very important. But if we break 1825, I don't see why we won't touch 1840. On the downside, I think if we see a break of this line and we see a break of 1775, we could easily see a sell-off to 1650. I think this will just mark the beginning of a sell-off. So a break below 1775, 1750, and you could see a very huge sell-off on gold. But I don't see a clear entry for the sell-off. So when I don't see a clear entry again, I tend to have the direction maybe and probably wait for an entry, a clear entry to come in. But for now, I'm flat, no trade running on this market. I think the most interesting pair for me now, where I think there's some money to be made, is on oil. Oil has finally rallied all the way to $85 a barrel, which is a psychological level. If you think about it historically, if you look at historical prices, how oil has reacted to some of these levels is quite significant. Finally breaking past this level, you had a shooting star close yesterday. On the day before yesterday, we had some sort of a false move upward. Anyone who bought here is absolutely doesn't understand really how the game works, and you can see easily how you'll get killed. So I feel like there's a very high chance. I'm watching for a break of a critical line. I think if we get a break of this trend line, I think we've stayed in this trend line for quite some weeks. I think all the way from about September, and fast for a whole month we've been trading just within this trend line. I think if we see a break of this, we could easily see a huge sell-off, but I'm still not in. So what am I waiting for to go in? I'm betting that we could see a sell-off to 82.5 probably towards New York session, and then we could see probably a correction to $84 a barrel, and that will be my entry. I want to enter upon a break of this and a correction. I think I will time an entry somewhere around 83.5, $85 a barrel, $84 a barrel, and I'll be looking for a sell-off all the way back to $79.5 a barrel or $80 a barrel. But I still want to see this close on the 4-hour taking place. Like, I want to see a solid close below this line, below the central pivot, probably a tap of 82.5 before a correction, probably a retest of this level, and then you can go in short looking for $80 a barrel, which is the next level. That's my favorite trade, at least for now. On the Dow, it looks like markets keep on making new highs, so nothing much to stop markets from rallying higher. I think ultimately we could see 36,200 and something. I was waiting for a correction back to 35,000 to buy into this move. Unfortunately, didn't get it, so I got this move all the way to about 35,300. Unfortunately, I left a lot of money on the table, but I was looking for a correction and then a continuation. didn't happen. You can see we're just getting new highs all the time. So this week we had a lot of companies announcing their earnings, including Microsoft, Netflix, Facebook. So this could also have impacted the markets to keep on making new highs. You can see clearly we're rejecting 35,750, again a psychological level. If we sell off, I think we could see a sell off back all the way to 35,000, 35,300, 35,250. Those are the levels I'm watching for. But for now, no trade again. We could see a huge move to 36,200. That wouldn't surprise me. On the downside, we could see a sell off to 35,200, the first target, and probably 35,000 as the second target. On Nasdaq, the story remains the same. New highs. I think it is a tech week this week. You have seen markets making new highs. So you can see clearly yesterday's close is quite suggestive of a sell-off. But again, no clear pattern on the 4-hour chart for you to come in and sell. So as much as I have the direction, sometimes I just tend to stay away from markets if there isn't any clear pattern for me to execute, and especially a pattern that I normally trade. So for this one also, it's a pass for me. GBP/USD, I was looking for this long position. I was in it, made some money all the way to here, then I was wiped out in New York session. So this was London. New York session, you can see markets came back lower. And it looks like markets will sell off. Yesterday's close was quite suggestive of a bearish play. I think if you see a break of 3750, easily you could see a huge sell off to 3680 and probably even 3650 in the downside. So that's what I'm watching. You can see London has opened. We have some momentum to the downside. But I think to improve the probability of getting right, it's right to time your trades in relation to where the New York session starts. I think there's a high chance you'll get the direction right if you try and time your entry there. So Euro Yen moving down quite a bit after a huge 2 weeks of momentum to the upside. Finally we tapped into 133.5. Now it looks like the sellers have come in and markets are moving quite low at 132. On the 4-hour chart there wasn't any pattern, but on the hourly I was waiting for an entry at around 132.8. Never came in, so I was looking for an entry around 132.8, 133, then I'd sell off, but the entry never came, and you can see I was right on the direction. The only thing I was wrong on is the entry. So I think there's a high chance this again will sell off all the way to 130.9. Still some opportunity to make some money here, but how I trade doesn't allow me to execute this, because if you execute such a trade, you have to think about the risk reward ratio, where to place your stops, where to place your take profits. And as much as you may have the direction, I think those things are more important for you to make money in the long run. So I think those are the markets I look at. Primarily I'll focus on those 4 or 5 markets. I don't think there's any other market that I can look at or any other analysis that I can share with you guys for now. I think I'll stop there. I'll see you some other time. If you have any question, I can try and answer. If you guys don't have any question, I think I'll stop there and I'll see you some other time. So any question? No question. So I think I'll see you guys on Friday when we'll be doing the next Zoom session. So we'll be having a different structure for the Zoom sessions where we're trying to bring in some different type of content, but we'll be starting that coming next month. So for now, let's stop there. We'll see you guys some other time. Peace. Any leads on where one can buy the one tap book on position sizing? No. You can buy it on Amazon. It's 27,000. So you can just go to Amazon and look for the book. I think it's on Amazon. That's it. So other than Amazon, I don't know anywhere else where you can buy it. So I'll see you guys some other time.